ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The Louis T Network is powered by Music Head University. Music Heads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louis T? Welcome to Saturday Night Football Overtime. Doubleheader style. AFC North family business across the board as the division crown was on the line in the first game. In the second game, Bengals fighting for their lives and the Steelers fighting for a little bit of respect. We'll get to all of that, but I, of course, am your man, Louis T. Thank you for joining me. First game, exactly as we expected. Biggest spread of the NFL season. Ravens came into the game as 17.5-point favorites. They covered that spread, winning 35-10, clinching the AFC North. Lamar Jackson, another solid game. Nothing earth-shattering, but he did become the first NFL quarterback to pass for 4,000 yards and rush for 900 yards in a single season. So Lamar continues to make history. I've said this numerous times this season. This is by far and away the best season I've seen him play, and he's already a two-time MVP. This season surpasses the two previous MVP seasons. However, the two previous MVP seasons, the Ravens were number one seeds that year. The Ravens are not the number one seed. They don't have the record that they had those years. And so I still don't think he's going to win the award. Sometimes voters can suffer from MVP fatigue when the same guy gets the award over and over again. It's the same thing that used to happen to Michael Jordan. He was the MVP every year of the NBA when he played, but you get tired of giving it to the same guy over and over again. So you find someone else to give it to. Not that Josh Allen isn't deserving, but Lamar Jackson has been spectacular. But I think the argument you're going to hear people use is, and it's a valid one. I agree with this. It's part of the reason why I think, Jaden Daniels should be in the discussion, even though he shouldn't win, is look at how many Pro Bowl players are on the team, right? Look at how many Pro Bowlers come off the Buffalo Bills roster. Just two. Look at how many Pro Bowl players come off of the Ravens roster. They got like 7, 8, or 9, right? Big difference. Rosters are constructed and built differently, obviously, but when it's all said and done, who does more with less, and who's more valuable to their team? We've seen, and I hate to use that from 3-4 years ago, whenever it was the 21 season. I think it was the 21 season. It wasn't the 21 season. It was the 22 season when the Bengals made it to the AFC Championship and lost due to the Joseph Osai penalty. The Ravens still made the playoffs that year, despite Lamar Jackson missing the final 3-4 games of that season. And forgot the Utah quarterback had to finish up, and they still made the playoffs, right? And I'm not saying that would happen this year, but what I'm saying is they've won without Lamar Jackson. The Bills, again, and I've said this about the Commanders, and I've said it about other teams. You remove Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills, that's a 3-4 win team. You remove Jaden Daniels, that's a 3-win. I think it's a 3-win team, right? Interesting debate. We'll get to that a little bit later on, though. Let's remove that game because that went exactly the way that we thought it was going to go. This one here, the nightcapper, big playoff implications for both teams, really, because if you're the Steelers, I don't know. I went back and forth with myself debating on whether or not it was beneficial for the Steelers to play someone else not named Baltimore. They seem to have a lot of success against the Ravens, home or away. They know them. The game's going to be relatively close, more likely than not. And, sometimes you're better off dealing with the devil you know than the devil you don't know. So I wonder if this isn't the best thing for them. Maybe going to Houston, where everybody feels like that's going to be a win for the road team, maybe going to Houston isn't the best thing in the world for the Steelers right now, because they cannot score. We'll save that conversation for when we're done with Cincinnati, because to the victors go the spoils. I really want to talk about Cincinnati in this, miraculous turnaround that they've had. I wonder if it's enough to save Zach Taylor's job. Was he ever in danger of getting fired? I think if this thing would have continued to go south, he would have been canned after the season. But making this run, and even if they had lost tonight, I think he might have been able to salvage his job. But winning tonight definitely put them in a position where now it's out of their hands. They lost a lot of one-score games, a lot of close ball games that could have altered the path of their season. And maybe Zach Taylor's back again. But at 9-8, they've done all they can do. A 5-game win streak. This was a 4-8 team that lost to the Steelers back in like week, 14 or so. I think 13, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we left them for dead. Dead, I tell you. And to see where they've come from the depths of despair to where they are now, 4-8, left for dead, to now 9-8 with a chance. Now they need help, but they've done what they needed to do. And what's crazy and ironic is this whole win streak, this thing has been really powered and driven by the offense and their ability to outscore the opponent, because the defense wasn't worth a damn. Now the defense has gotten exponentially better from earlier in the season when they couldn't stop a nosebleed and they couldn't rip through a wet paper towel. But now the defense has gotten a little bit better, but they're still not a great unit. But tonight, it was all about the defense, because the offense was incapable of finishing a drive. And I can't speak for you out there. I can't speak for you out there, but I myself felt like watching this game. My son asked me when the Bengals kicked the field goal to go up 16-7. He asked me, "Daddy, who do you think is going to win the game?" And I said, "I think the Steelers are going to win." And he said, "Really? Look, the Bengals have 16. The Steelers only have 7. And in my mind, I'm like, I've watched this whole game. The Steelers clearly aren't the better team. They're being dominated in this game, but the scoreboard isn't showing it. And I remember saying to myself in that moment, damn, this feels like a Mike Tomlin game. One of those games where the Steelers have no business winning. They're outgained by, almost 200 yards. Time of possession was ridiculous and slanted in the favor. At one point, it was 37-17, like time of possession. They had driven the ball in the Steelers territory like 4 or 5 times. Everything in this game suggests that the Steelers should be losing by 3 touchdowns. Instead, they're losing by 9. 9. It was 16-7. They were losing by 9. And I'm like, boy, this feels like a Mike Tomlin 17-16, 20-19. And when they kicked that final field goal to make it 19-7, I said, boy, this feels like a Tomlin win for sure. This feels like a 21-19 hurt head end of the game. They score with, 11 seconds left and beat them. Well, when they kicked that field goal and boy, Boswell is good, I said, damn, they about to win this shit 20-19. And of all things, it was the Bengals defense that stepped up and made the plays. Not once, but twice. The Steelers had the football with a chance to take the lead. And not once, but twice, the Cincinnati Bengals defense, which had been much maligned this season, and rightfully so, it's been one of the worst units in football, got it done. Now, the second one, that was a big drop by Pat Freiermuth. It was a big miss by Russell Wilson on the deep ball. So there were opportunities there, but that's no fault of Cincinnati's. They did what they needed to do. Trey Hendrickson was a man amongst boys tonight, 3.5 sacks. Russell Wilson, I don't want to say he's washed, but his best days are clearly behind him. And look, that's what happens as you get older. But for Cincinnati, so much of their success offensively relies heavily on them having their weapons be available. You saw how different the Steelers were able to play them when there was no T. Higgins. I've always felt like having that other guy really balances the field for them. When there's no T. Higgins, now you can roll coverage. You can put your best corner on Jamar Chase. And, like the strategy that the Steelers were employing early in the game, take our best corner, remove T. Higgins, and we'll double Jamar Chase, right? Well, you got to get to the double for it to work. Chase was torturing whomever was there with him, and especially if they gave him one-on-one, it wasn't a fair fight. Well, now you remove T. Higgins with the ankle. Now you can put your best corner on, Jamar Chase and be aggressive with him and still put that help over the top because you don't fear any of the other receivers. And so, so much of their success, I think, is tied to having that other guy opposite of Jamar Chase. And they're not going to re-sign T. Higgins. And so they got to figure that out. And you're hoping that, Burton can, turn into that guy, Yoshi Vosh. Somebody's got to step up. Maybe you sign somebody in free agency that's going to cost you a lot less than T. Higgins. But they got to figure that out because if they don't have someone else to take away that attention, it really stifles that offense. Mike Gesicki has been huge. They got to bring him back, right? Like, I don't know how Bengals fans feel, but, Gesicki has been really good for them this season. He was huge tonight. I think you got to bring him back if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. They finally hit it on a free agent tight end because they've been trying to find, a free agent tight end like Irv Smith. They rolled the dice on him. I mean, going all the way back to bringing back Tyler Eifert the second time, it feels like they haven't been able to hit on a free agent tight end. They hit on one here. I think the smart move is to try to bring him back again next year. But he's been their second best target their third best target after T. Higgins. But with Higgins out of the lineup, he immediately goes to your second best target. And with no Chase Brown tonight, that's another receiver lost, even though, solid effort from Khalil Herbert. Thought he was really solid in filling in. But again, as Troy Aikman said, you lose a lot in the receiving game with no Chase Brown. And so they just found it hard. And look, Joe missed some throws, and then Chase dropped the, touchdown, and, Burrow missed the throw to Gesicki in the back of the end zone. And he had the throw that was kind of behind Jamar Chase that allowed Patrick Queen to get his hands on the football, and then pops in the air and gets picked up by Beanie Bishop. And so there were all types of mistakes that allowed the Steelers to hang around in this game. And again, it just felt like a Tomlin type of game. And I just kept saying to myself, they're going to allow Mike Tomlin to sneak away with a 20-19, a 21-19, a 17-16 type victory. And they don't deserve it. They were dominated. They looked awful on offense. But Cincinnati, this is why they're 9-8. This right here, this shit they did tonight, this stunt they pulled tonight is exactly why they're probably not a playoff team. This game had no business being close at all. And against a better opponent, they lose. This has been their problem. Here of late, they played teams that they've been able to handle and find a way to beat. But you play better opponents that can score the football, and they're not winning this game tonight. They're just simply not going to win this game playing the way that they played, missing out on opportunities the way that they missed out on, right? Having that muff punt or the ball, touch a blocker down there. Having those mistakes will get you got against better opposition. Luckily, they were playing the Steelers, who are anemic offensively and allergic to scoring points. And so now it's the waiting game for Cincinnati, but they're still ultra dangerous, and nobody wants them in the playoffs. If I were Kansas City, and again, nobody's going to do this, but if I were the Chiefs, I'd be like, hey, we're definitely going to lose this game on purpose, because the one team that has Kansas City's number, especially in the postseason, Cincinnati. And they've already proven time and time again, they are not afraid to go to Arrowhead and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the one team that's had the ability to do that in the playoffs. Buffalo hadn't been able to do it. Baltimore hadn't been able to do it. It's Joe Burrow. That's the kryptonite. And I know they don't want to see them in the playoffs at all because they're capable of going to Buffalo and beating the Bills. And once you do that, all bets are off, right? So, and we know they can beat the Ravens, even though they didn't beat them this year. They were in both of those ball games. And the defense is playing a lot better than, when the last time they saw the Ravens. So I'll just say this much. Nobody in the AFC wants to see this Bengals team in the postseason. But they got to be healthy when they get there. They got to have Chase Brown. They got to have T. Higgins, or they're not the same team. As far as Pittsburgh is concerned, it's like a broken record. And, man, I feel Steelers fans' pain. I really, truly do. I remember my guy, Steelers fan, last year or the year before telling me, I don't want to make the playoffs. I think it was last year. I said, I don't want to make the playoffs. Sick of this shit. Every year, it's the same thing. We make the playoffs. People laud and praise Tomlin for not, for having a record above 500. And we get to the playoffs and we get smacked around in wild card weekend and we go away. We haven't won since 2016 in the playoffs. And, I'm sick of it. And I listened to him and I was like, I get it, man. But there are a lot of teams that would love to just be in your position where they make the playoffs. But that's not the standard in Pittsburgh. It's not the standard. The standard is Super Bowl. I'm not happy to be here. Super Bowl. And so when you have that perspective and you struggle the way that they do on offense, they haven't been good offensively since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And it started at the end of his career. He was showing signs of slowing down and, not being able to do the things that he used to do. And they started to struggle offensively, maybe a year or two before he retired. But they haven't been a dynamic offense since the Killer Bees. You got to go all the way back to Bell, Brown, Bryant, and Ben, right? That's a long, long time ago, folks. we talking 2018, 2019, right? That's utterly ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And so this is who they've been really for the last 4 or 5 years now. This is who they've been on offense. And, when they had that little stretch with Russ, when he was winning, when he was 6-1 and, I think they were 7-3 or whatever their record was. And, Tomlin was like beating his chest. I told you so. When everybody said, hey, I don't know if you benching Justin Fields is the right thing to do. And Tomlin's like, I'm going with my gut. And Tomlin, he stuck his chest out and he was like, yeah, I told y'all this was the right decision. And it was working. But here we are, back to square one, back to where we were the night when the Steelers lost on Sunday Night Football to the Dallas Cowboys, 20-19 on a, last second touchdown on a 4th down to Tolbert. And I remember coming up here and ranting and talking about how elementary this Steelers offense is and how it's a joke and how you can't beat anybody scoring 19 points. Well, here we are again, talking about the same shit. We've come full circle. We did a complete 360. And we're right back in the same spot. You can't score. You can't extend drives. You can't possess the football. Your defense was out there the entire night. This shit is nauseating. If you're a Steelers fan, you're 10-7. You don't feel good about going into the postseason. You don't think you can beat anybody doing this bullshit. You can't get jiggy with this shit. What are you supposed to do with 17 points? Who are you beating in the playoffs with 17 points? You're going into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. Matter of fact, 4-game losing streak, if I'm not mistaken. You were 10-3 going into that showdown with the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. 10-3, I believe. And you haven't won a game since. Lost to the Eagles, lost to the Ravens, lost to the Chiefs, lost to the Bengals. And we said, hey, we're going to find out a lot. I remember saying this. We're going to find out a lot about these damn Steelers on the back end of their schedule because this shit is brutal. The kind that'll split your noodle if you ain't careful. And they ain't won a game since. So we found out who you are. You're a pretender. You don't belong. And look, your best shot was to get the 5 seed and have a chance to beat the Houston Texans and see if you couldn't build a little momentum there. You going back to the scene of the crime just a couple weeks ago, losing to the Ravens, going back there again. The only saving grace, the only good thing I can say is that you're dealing with the devil you know. And sometimes that's the better option. It's dealing with the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. You know the Ravens like the back of your hand. You play them better than anybody else. And even if your offense ain't shit, you can hold down Lamar and company and make it a sloppy, messy, nasty game, and you'll have a shot. And that's your only hope right now. Because this shit is tough to stomach. This offense is awful. Is it me or do the Steelers do a great job of picking receivers? They do a fantastic job of picking receivers who are head cases. Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, George Pickens. They know how to pick them. Damn it, they're super talented. Every last one of them. Boy, do they know how to pick them. Good gracious. This guy here. Did you see him getting into it with a fan? I don't know if that was a Steeler fan or if it was a Bengals fan giving him the business over there on the sidelines, but he had to be restrained by Pat Frymouth. This guy is insufferable. And then he goes out and gives us the old Deebo Samuel, right? Drops the ball 3 times. Wow. I can't see this Steelers team making it out of the first round of the playoffs. And I'm shocked that Najee Harris came back in this game. Who thought he was coming back after that shot he took to the jaw? One thing I can't say about Najee, he's a tough son of a bitch. So if there's nothing else that I can say about him, my wife asked me, why is he running so flat-footed? Is he hurt or something? I said, no, babe. That's just how he runs. How many times have I complained to y'all about how he runs, right? Like he's trying to beat the hell out of the ground, right? Just like he's trying to pull up as much grass as he can when he runs with every step. I mean, the Steelers are really frustrating. It's literally wash, rinse, repeat over and over again. Wash, rinse, repeat. What are you going to do at quarterback next year? Too good to get somebody in the draft. What you could do? Bring back Russell Wilson again? Really? Okay. I mean, maybe you can put more talent around him. Yeah, you did draft Roman Wilson. He'll be healthy next year. Right? Like, maybe you draft another guy. I don't know. What are we, like, where's the end game here? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Sign Kirk Cousins? Like, I don't, like, there just doesn't feel like there's any hope. Because with Mike Tomlin, you already know you're winning 9 games. So you're not going to be high enough in the draft. I always go back to that Chase Young clip where he walks over to Mike Tomlin and Tomlin says, I don't want to lose enough games to be able to draft a guy that looks like you. And that's the problem with Mike Tomlin is you'll never be bad enough because Mike Tomlin finds ways to win. And while that shit is cool in the regular season, that finding a way to win 19-17 bullshit doesn't get it done in the playoffs. You better be able to score some damn points. And the Steelers are offensively challenged every single year. Every year. And, watching their inefficiency on first and second down was rough tonight because it was outside zone left, outside zone right. Now you're in 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7. Like, you do know you can throw the ball on first down, right? You do know that's something you can explore and try. It just, this is who they are. This is who they are. So, God, that's a tough existence, and I get why Steelers fans are so disappointed because you can't go to the playoffs with this shit and expect to beat anybody. I don't even know if you would have been able to beat Houston playing like this. And Houston is the most vulnerable team, I would argue, in the entire playoffs, not just in the NFC or the AFC, excuse me, but in the NFC. Of all of the division winners, Houston feels the most vulnerable. If Tampa Bay holds on and in the NFC, I'd take Tampa Bay, I'd take the Rams, I'd take the Eagles, and the winner of Minnesota, Detroit over, and of course, you're taking Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City over Houston. I'd take any of the other division winners over Houston right now, as they're currently constructed. But damn, if the Steelers, the Texans would be looking at them like food. Everybody's looking at the Texans like food. Everybody's looking at the Steelers like, yo, I want to play the Steelers in the first round. Maybe everybody except the Ravens, which is why I said, you know what? Might not be the worst thing in the world that they lost this game. From a confidence standpoint, it sucks to have lost 4 straight. And I'm just trying to think about all of those losses. You didn't score 20 in the Eagles' loss. Pretty sure you didn't score 20 in the Chiefs' loss. You didn't score 20 tonight, obviously. And you didn't score 20 in the Ravens' loss. So when's the last time you scored 20 points? I mean, damn, I'm actually curious now. Because, this offense has been absolutely putrid here of late. You scored 17 tonight. You scored 10 last week. You scored 17 against the Ravens the week prior. You scored 13 the week prior to that against the Eagles. You haven't scored over 20 points in a month. Last time you did it was on December 8th against the Cleveland Browns. So, man, it's just, isn't it amazing what a difference a month makes? Just a month ago on December 1st, the Steelers scored 44 points. 44 points. But as I look at the schedule and I look at their season, we know that's not who they really are, right? Scored 26 against the Giants, 18 against the Ravens the first time when they beat them, 18-16. They scored 19 in a loss to the Browns, 24-19. We made all kinds of excuses for them, right? It was snowing and this, that, and the other. Then they come out and they score 44 against Cincinnati. You're like, yo, this Steelers team has a shot, right? They got a shot because they can score now. Bullshit. After that 44-point outburst, they scored 27 against the Browns, and they haven't scored 20 since. It's the same Steelers, man. Same Steelers. Unbelievable. Oh, man. Sad part is, defensively, I think they give you a shot almost every week. With Cam Hayward batting down passes, TJ Watt and Highsmith off the edge, you got a fighting chance defensively. You stop the run pretty well. You got a fighting chance defensively. Problem is, don't really matter. You can't score no damn points. You got one of the best kickers in the league, so you can just get in the field goal range. He can hit it from just about any goddamn where, 60 and in. And Chris Boswell. And the fact that you can't move the ball, the fact that you can't put him in positions to make kicks, the fact that you can't keep your defense off the field. What was time of possession tonight? The last time I saw it, time of possession was 37-17. I'd imagine that they got to 40 in this game and doubled them up. 38-22, almost doubled them up in time of possession. That's disgusting. That's gross. That's gross. The only thing that saved the Steelers from getting blown out in this game is the Bengals were 1 of 4 in the red zone. And I always tell you, you can go to a few stats and they'll tell you the story in the game. Red zone is one of them. Third downs is usually another one, and turnovers is the last one that I go to. The Steelers were outgained in this game 314-193. I mean, it's unbelievable that they were even in this game. Just looking at all the statistics. But you make the amount of mistakes that the Bengals made tonight, and you allow a team like Cincinnati, like Pittsburgh, to stay in the game. And so they're lucky to come away with this victory. I'll tell you that much. They're fortunate because, again, like I said earlier, if they were playing a better opponent, one that could score, Cincinnati loses. And it would have been the same story. It would have been the same song they've been singing all year long about, oh, we lost another one-score game. Well, you lost it because of you. You did that shit. You threw behind Mike Gesicki wide open in the back of the end zone. You threw the ball to Jamar Chase and it went right through his hands. You did that. You threw a pass to Jamar Chase and threw it behind him and let Patrick Queen bat it up in the air and get picked off. You did that. You put them in a position to steal this game from you. So, fortunate to come away with the victory. Now you sit and you wait if you're Cincinnati. Now you sit and you wait. Miami's going to lose. It ain't Miami you got to worry about. It's Denver. And I just don't see the Broncos losing on Sunday. But if they do, that would make for some pretty interesting theater. All of a sudden, that Bills game gets a lot more exciting. I'm not Bills Broncos wouldn't be bad, but it ain't Broncos. It ain't Bengals Bills. That's for damn sure. So we'll see what happens. If you're the Steelers, I can't think of a team going into the postseason with less momentum than the Pittsburgh Steelers in either conference. I'm pretty sure they're the only team going into the playoffs riding a 4-game losing streak. So I'm pretty confident that no one else is going into the playoffs with less momentum than the Steelers. And it'd be just like Mike Tomlin when we all envision them being buried and dead, for him to stick his hand up through the dirt or sit up and pop out of the coffin like the Undertaker and find a way to beat the Ravens in Baltimore. That'd be typical Mike Tomlin, but generally he don't get this shit done in the playoffs. That's some regular season shit. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to Inside the Odds, brought to you by BetUS. And then we'll come back, jump on the other side of this, and get to your comments. Talk about this game. Let's go Inside the Odds, brought to you by BetUS.
Inside the Odds.
Looking for a new book this football season? BetUS has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get up to 10% back on your net losses twice a year as long as you've been active within the last 6 months. And here's the kicker for brand new users. Head over to the website betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. When you use the promo code YouTube150, remember, bet responsibly. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose. And also, do not chase your losses. With that said, let's talk about the slate tomorrow. I was actually really interested in the slate of games that really matter outside of the Sunday night game. We know that's going to be a very hotly and closely contested ball game. I'm interested in all of these games that you see in front of you that have playoff implications. Saints, Bucks. Obviously, Bucks need to win that game to win and clinch the NFC North or South, excuse me. Bears, Packers. Packers have a chance to improve to the 6th seed with a win coupled with the Commanders' loss. You have Miami, Dolphins, Jets. Miami is first in line to benefit from a Broncos loss. Should the Dolphins beat the Jets, they will then be your 7th seed. If the Broncos lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously you see Chiefs, Broncos there as well. Then obviously Broncos win, they're in. It's simple, don't need anyone's help. And then Panthers, Falcons. Falcons need a win and a Buccaneers loss to clinch the NFC South. So the thing that stood out to me in all these games, sans for the Dolphins Jets game, is look at the point spread on all of these. And all of these spreads that you see are brought to you by BetUS. Bucks are 14-point favorites. Delicioso. How about Bears, Packers? Packers are 10-point favorites over the Chicago Bears. You've got the Denver Broncos, 11-point favorites over the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Atlanta Falcons are 9-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers. And then, Jets, Dolphins, pick them. Right? That's right. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets playing against God knows who, probably Tyler Huntley and the Miami Dolphins. Bless us all. I probably won't watch that game, to be honest with you. I watched Browns Dolphins last week because I didn't have a choice. And my goodness, I think I might have lost about maybe 3 or 4 years of football watching, excitement watching that football game. It was so bad. So I think I'm going to pass on that. That's going to be a hard no for me this upcoming week. But luckily enough for me, that's a 4:00 game. I won't be in front of my television for that. So, but I only bring it up because all of these games practically are already decided. If you side with Vegas, these games won't be close. All of these games have playoff implications for the most part, and none of them aren't supposed to be close. Sans for the Dolphins-Jets game. And if Tua were playing, they'd probably be favored by 8 or 9 points themselves. The Jets are awful, right? This is exactly the opposite of what the NFL had in mind when they put together the stipulation that made sure that teams were playing within the division the final week of the season. You're not supposed to have 14-point favorites and 10 and 11. Hell, we had the 17.5-point favored Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns tonight. I mean, that is not what the NFL had in mind when they put this thing together to have these, division foes facing off in the final week of the season. But here we are talking about games that matter, that should not be close if the teams that are supposed to win take care of business. It's amazing when you look at, the NFL season, the schedule, and how things could turn out. And then you get to week 18 and this is what it looks like. Again, I don't feel bad for anybody. I don't feel bad for Atlanta. They were leading that division at 6-3 and they imploded. And Kirk Cousins forgot how to play football. Like, I don't feel bad for them. Right? They put themselves in this position now that they need the New Orleans Saints' help. They did that to themselves. But damn, it has to suck knowing that we got a shot, but we need help. And the team we're relying on is a 14-point underdog. Like if you're Cincinnati, you dug yourself this hole. Your defense has been anemic all season, yada, yada, yada. I get it, right? But you've done everything that you needed to do after being 4-8. Here you are at 9-8, winning 5 straight, hottest team that nobody wants to play. And you're relying on a team that's resting practically all of their starters and are 11-point underdogs on the road. I mean, that's a tough place to be. But such is life, which is why I always tell you, I always tell you in boxing, don't allow the judges to impact the outcome of the decision. Knock a guy out. Don't have to rely on other teams to do your dirty work for you. You want something done right, you got to do it yourself. That's what this says right here. This is why I'm showing you this. These odds brought to you by BetUS. Because you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. You got to do it yourself. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. If you're out there and you want your comment read, there are 2 ways to get it done. One way is to use the hashtag LouisTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, I cannot ensure that time will permit for me to get to your comment, but it will give you a shot if time does permit. But the fastest and most effective and efficient way to have your comment read is the super chat. Use the super chat function. It will not only allow you to jump straight to the front of the line, it will also allow you to have your comment read on the air and be reacted to. Guaranteed. So, with that said, let's jump into the first comment. My guy, Juan Gotti, talking sports. What up, Juan? Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, a 9-1 come to Washington. 16.5, Lou. Damn. 16.5 is right. Let's see. Let me check that real quick. You know, that's actually bananas to me, right? Because let's see. Yeah. Okay. 16.5. That's what we had tonight. Or was it 17? It might have been 17.5. But crazy. Crazy. You know what I'm saying? Crazy. I think he got to 17.5, which is what he had last year. I think he got to 17.5. I went back and forth as to whether I wanted him. Like, do I want to pursue him in free agency? He's getting up there in age. He can't keep duplicating this. Like, I don't want to pay for what a guy's done and then he gets to Washington and he's on the back end of his career. But boy, 17.5 is 17.5 is 17.5. I mean, but I got to imagine this is going to be his 3rd contract. I got to imagine that Trey Hendrickson has to be pushing 30 if he's not already 30. I got to imagine that. And if that's the case, I don't know if I feel comfortable dishing out dough to a dude that's going to be, you know, I'm guessing he's 30 right now, going to be 31 next year. That's my guess. Let's look up Trey Hendrickson's age. I could be way off on him, but I don't think I'm wrong here. I don't think I'm wrong. He's 30 right now. He just turned 30 on December 5th. So he'll be 31 next year. Again, I mean, dude's put up some ridiculous numbers the last, 3 years in Cincinnati. He deserves to be paid. I'm just not sure if I want to be the one to pay him. But, I mean, he did it again. 17.5 on this season, 17.5 last season. He had 8 in 2022, 14.5 the year before that, 13.5 the year before that. So, I mean, we're going into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going into year 9. I mean, how much longer can he keep this up? If you think he's still got 3 more good years of football in front of him, sign him up. I'll break the bank on a 3-year deal. But Can you tell me that he's got 3 more good years left in him? I don't know about that. I don't know. He'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Like, Washington desperately needs a defensive end. But are they willing to spend on him and a wide receiver too? Because I think they're going to go out and be aggressive in the wide receiver market. I don't know. He's a beast. I do know that. I agree. 16 and a half or 17 and a half point favorite were the Ravens, 17 and a half sacks for Trey Hendrickson. He's a bad, bad boy. I'll tell you that right now. One guy to talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, for all the shit GP talks, he ain't show up. Fans booed him. Yeah, Pickens, I told you, he's one of those dudes. He's a eclectic. That's what I'm going to call him. He's eclectic. He's an acquired taste. He's not for everybody. And I'm not a big fan of dudes who I got to go out of my way to keep their head screwed on straight when things aren't going well, or, they're not getting their way. And you got to have 5 dudes come over and talk to him and, keep him from imploding and losing his shit and getting his head out of the game. Like, I don't have time to babysit people. It's a team full of grown ass men, and I got to walk around and babysit you like a little ass kid. Coaches coming over, players coming over, everybody coming over and trying to calm them down, talk to them. Like, it's too much. It's too much. And dude is super talented. As we all know, dude is dumb talented, but it's too much. And it'd be one thing if he was Antonio Brown. All right, man. I guess if I got to put up with this shit, I'll do it for one of the best receivers in the league. George Pickens is good, but he ain't one of the best receivers in football. So, like, he got to get his shit together, man. He got to grow up. That's it. That's what he need to do. He need to grow the hell up. Red House, not Roadhouse. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red House, not Roadhouse writes, Hurts still reeling, Lou. Not sure he's off ready. He'll be fine by the time we get to Wild Card Weekend. But you know what is ironic is that Eagles fans tried to tell us, they swore that this man was held out. There was some sort of giant conspiracy to somehow hold the Eagles down and make them lose. Oh, the man gave a thumbs up. He was fine, and they made him come out of the game. There was nothing wrong with him. Oh, really? Here we are, 3 weeks removed from the game, and the man is still in the damn protocol. Make it make sense. Like, I guess he had a concussion after all. His ass had a concussion the first time we played y'all. Anyway, he'll be fine by the time Wild Card Weekend rolls around. And there's no reason to rush, right? He wasn't playing this week anyway. So I like to think that he'll be out of the concussion protocol by the time, we get to Wild Card Weekend. If I were an Eagles fan, I wouldn't be worried at all right now. Wouldn't be worried at all. Waldo Vision. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Waldo Vision writes, Sup, Lou? Sup, Waldo Vision? I watched your last video and you said Green Bay over Philly. That's pretty disrespectful. One and done? No way, LOL. I'm just telling you, Green Bay is not afraid. They're not afraid. And they went into an NFC East opponent last year on the road as a 7 seed and won last year. They are battle tested. Jordan Love is dangerous. Josh Jacobs is playing like one of the better backs in the league this year. That defense, it's not great, but you don't have to be great. Now, Jair Alexander being injured for the rest of the season is a big blow to them. They're not great at the cornerback position, and we know the Eagles can be, a little bit tough to deal with if they can get the pass game going. But the key for Green Bay is going to be, can they stop the run? If they can slow down Saquon Barkley, I think they can affect Jalen Hurts enough and make it interesting. But this ain't the same Eagles team that Green Bay saw in week 1, where they were able to, move the football pretty easily and score all those points. This ain't that same Eagles team. That's a totally different animal they're dealing with. But all I'm telling you is that Green Bay ain't afraid. Iron sharpens iron. They're coming from the best division in football. Those boys are battle tested. They've been in the playoffs. They've won on the road in the same environment, in a similar environment, in a similar situation as a 7 seed a year ago playing against a 2 seed. I'm just telling you, if it turns out to be the way that it is right now, Green Bay is the 7 seed. Just look out. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. They would make for a very dangerous 7 seed. That's all I'm saying. And I do think they can beat them. I do. I'm not guaranteeing a loss. That's not what I'm doing. But what I'm telling you is I wouldn't be shocked in the least if Green Bay beat them. But again, we don't know what the matchups are going to be. Washington has to still win first to ensure that they're the 6th seed and Green Bay is the 7th seed. Then we can have that discussion. But I'm just telling you right now, if Green Bay is the 7th seed, if they end up being the 7th seed, they're a dangerous 7th seed. Kyle W. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kyle writes, what's up, Lou? What's up, Kyle? Yo, I know you saw Myles Garrett looking all dejected on the sidelines, man. I swear I see him in a Commander's uniform next year. What says you? Do you know what you'd have to give up to get him? Now, if you're comfortable with parting ways with what it would take to get a superstar like Myles Garrett, which I am fully on board with that, by the way. I am not telling you that I'm not. I am absolutely 100% on board with giving up whatever it would take, as long as it's all draft capital related. Because in my mind, and the same thing that I thought when we traded for Robert Griffin III after we won the division in his first season, or excuse me, not won the division. Yeah, we did win the division in his first season. I thought, well, I don't give a shit about them first round picks we gave to the Rams. Them shit's about to be back into the first round. We going to the playoffs every year. That didn't happen, right? But this is different. We got a real organization, real coaching staff, and one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We making the playoffs every damn year now. So if you give up 3 1s for him, guess what? Your goal is to make those 3 1s all back into the first round ones. I do it in a heartbeat. Will the Browns be interested in moving him? Probably not. But if he makes it tough on them, and it's the same shit that Jonathan Allen did last year. Like, let's not act like this is brand new. Jonathan Allen did the same thing, same time last year, where he talked that shit about thinking about wanting to be out and this, that, and the third. And, new guys came in, taught some sense into him, and look where we are now. Same thing can happen for Myles Garrett. He just got to see that they trying to win. Max Crosby said the same thing, right? I ain't trying to be a part of no rebuild. Either y'all show me y'all trying to win or ship me out of here. Dudes get tired of losing. I don't think they're going to trade Myles Garrett. I don't. But stranger things have happened. And if he gets real ornery and he's like, yo, I'm not playing for y'all, trade me, and it gets to a Antonio Brown boiling point, a Stephon Diggs boiling point, maybe he gets shipped out of there. We'll see. My money's not on that taking place. But just so we're clear, I'm very interested. Very interested if he were to become available. All right, let's get to the comment section and knock down some of these hashtags. John Wynn says, Carson Wentz is an LA Ram now. Nah, you like 3 teams behind where this man is. I kid. I think he was in LA 2 years ago. He was with Kansas City last year, if I'm not mistaken. No, couldn't have been 2 years ago because he was with Washington 2 years ago. He was with LA last year, and he's with Kansas City this year. So yeah. You 1 year removed. Samuel S. writes, this was 2020 all over again for the Steelers. At what point do we look at Mike Tomlin and say the Steelers ceiling is no more than a wild card exit? I mean, that's where we at right now with him, right? Like, honestly, I don't want to sit here and act like you can't win big with Mike Tomlin, because you can. But what we know is you can't give Mike Tomlin just enough. Because if you give him just enough, he will get you to the playoffs. You got to give Mike Tomlin some absolute horse shit. And even then, he's already shown like he gonna find a way to get you to 9 wins. Like, I don't know how you bottom out with this dude. And that ain't what he's about. And he needs a dude at quarterback. You're not gonna get that winning 9 games every year. That's the truth of it. You're not gonna win big in this league with quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. You're not gonna win with them type of dudes. You're just not. And so the biggest issue is he needs a dog at quarterback, and you ain't gonna get it. They're not just gonna fall in your lap. Yeah, Tomlin, there's a ceiling to which you can have success with him because of how he's built mentally. Like, he's so competitive and he's stuck in his ways, and he's all about, like, he's old school. So he's all about physicality, and that's how the approach is always going to be. But he takes that 3 cloud, he takes that 3 yards in a cloud of dust to another level, to the extreme. And he's still playing football like it's 1998. He's still coaching like it's 2003. And the game has changed. You got to score points, man. And he's a by any means necessary. And most NFL coaches are, but there comes a time where you got to be aggressive. And like tonight, I'm watching them run it left, run it right, and then get in the third down, can't convert. Run it left, run it right, third down, can't convert. At some point, and I've heard from Steelers fans enough to know that these things are being done at the directive of Mike Tomlin. He wants to run the ball more. He don't want you spreading teams out and throwing the shit 42 times. And I'm not suggesting that's what they should be doing, but he ain't allowing that shit to happen either. Samuel S. writes, had the Bengals beaten the dang-on Patriots at home in week 1, they would have clinched a playoff berth tonight. When you're a fan of a team in the situation that they're in right now, that's what you start doing. When you just missed the playoffs by 1 game, it's no different than if you've played sports before and you lose a game by 1 point or 1 run. You start combing through all of the mistakes you made in the game. Man, I missed that free throw. Man, I had an easy layup and I blew it, right? And you lose the game by 1 and you start playing those things back. And I always say, when losses like those happen, I always say, if you don't make the playoffs, we're going to look back at fill in the blank game. And there are so many of those games on the Bengals schedule this year where you go to, and you say to yourself, if you miss the playoffs, we coming back to that game or that game or that game or that game or that game. And that's definitely one where you go, you can't lose at home to the New England Patriots. Sorry, that's not okay. But they did. So you're right. They would be in the playoffs right now. Samuel writes, Bengals also did the Chargers a huge favor. If the Chargers win tomorrow, they go up to the 5 seed and play the Texans. If the Chargers would have played the Texans right now, I think they crush them. Yes, that's why everybody wanted the Chargers or the Texans in the first round. That was if you were a wild card, that was the golden ticket. Nobody wants to play Buffalo. Nobody wants to play Baltimore in the first round. The best path to the divisional round is through Houston. And the Steelers, for as bad as they played down the stretch, blowing the division, they could have won the division 3 separate times. And they've blown it every single time. Even with all of that, they still had a ticket to the divisional round if they could just win tonight. That's all they had to do. Win tonight, and you get a first-round date with the Houston Texans. That's a winnable game because they can rattle the cage of C.J. Stroud. They could get C.J. Stroud to make a mistake or two. Sack him, make him fumble, scoop that bitch up, run for it. They could have done that. And they still might be able to do it to Baltimore. Highly unlikely, though. And if you're a Chargers fan, you wanted no part. Like, I remember when they lost to Baltimore, on a Monday night about a month ago, and Khalil Mack said, we can beat them. They ain't all that. And I was like, hey, Khalil, do me a favor. Shut up. Hope you don't have to play them again. Do me a favor. Don't do that because you really don't want that smoke. Well, they got lucky. All they got to do is beat the damn Raiders tomorrow, and they'll be the 5th seed. Hey, that's a hot Raiders team. That's a hot Raiders team right now. Winners are 2 straight. You better look out. They take care of business, and they're getting the best gift of all, the 5th seed and a chance to advance to the divisional round. Sheree writes, do you think Denver beats Kansas City, and who are you picking between a likely Texans-Chargers wildcard game? Yes, Denver beats Kansas City tomorrow, and I'm picking the Chargers in a Texans-Chargers wildcard game. Samuel S. says, Carson Wentz holds the fate of 3 different teams in his hands tomorrow, and none of them are his team. LOL. At the end of the day, the Chiefs aren't going to win. Carson Wentz, I've seen that comment. Like, Carson Wentz is, one of the most important players tomorrow, in terms of, who makes it, who doesn't, seeding, all of that good stuff. But when it's all said and done, whether the Chiefs upset Denver or not, Miami still has a chance to win. Cincinnati's done what they needed to do already. And so, what's crazy is it just feels like it's almost preordained, like this is fate that Cincinnati is supposed to make the playoffs. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Denver's going to beat Kansas City. You really needed the Chiefs to need the game today. You did. I'll tell you the game that's really screwed Cincinnati over, that has nothing to do with them, was Buffalo losing to the Rams. That's the game that screwed them. Because Buffalo should have been still in play for the number 1 seed, and it would have forced Kansas City to have to play their starters. And then they would have beaten Denver more likely than not. And let's not act like Denver didn't have those boys on the ropes the first time. They may have been able to beat them in Denver. Mahomes has struggled in Denver mightily. But at the end of the day, as I always say, you had your chances. And so Carson Wentz having an opportunity to lead the Chiefs. What did we see that number was? Was that number 11 or 14? I think that number was 14. They were like 14-point underdogs. That Denver defense is going to eat his ass for lunch. Pause. All right. They're going to devour Carson Wentz. Pause again. I'll be shocked if they don't win that game by at least 10 points. Them being Denver. I'll be shocked. Samuel. Oh, got a super chat. Hold on a second. Kyle W. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Packers going to be a tough out. Remind me of us. I was talking to Boss. And yes, Boss, is a hater, as we know. But within the hate sometimes that he has, because most of the time he's not a hater. But even through the hate, there's gems that he drops. So I always like to chop it up with Boss and ask him, who are the teams that you feel like are, dark horses that could really make some noise in the playoffs. And he had 2 in the NFC and he had 2 in the AFC, but 1 isn't currently in, of course, Cincinnati being that 1. His 2 in the NFC were Green Bay and the Rams. I said, and we in there too, but he wasn't trying to hear that shit because he hating on us, which is fine. And then in the AFC, he's like, Denver's defense is really good. I'm like, ain't nobody worried about defense. Denver though, they not beating nobody. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but they get in and they got to go to Buffalo. They're getting gobbled up in round 1, right? But they do play defense, and that could be interesting with Josh Allen. And then he said Cincinnati. Nobody wants to play the Bengals, and he's not wrong. So Green Bay, I think everybody feels like Green Bay is going to be a tough out, no matter who they play. They're going to be somebody to deal with. They're one of them teams where you're like, they can be really disrespectful, come in your house and got no issues doing you dirty in your own crib. So Jordan Love is he's just cocky enough to come in and not give a shit. Just cocky enough where he'll run around, do some unorthodox shit that he shouldn't be doing, like jump, both feet off the ground, and throw, lean in one way, but throw across his body the other way and still hit a receiver. He's talented enough to do some crazy shit. He's also talented enough to think he could do some crazy shit and end up turning it over. That's the Jordan Love experience. They're going to be a tough out regardless. Samuel S. writes, why do the Steelers always got to have a head case at receiver? First it was Antonio Brown and Martavis Brown. Now George Pickens. Like I said, I went through the list of them. They know how to pick them, boy. They know how to pick them. I'll just say that. Steel City, this is my guy. I brought you up earlier, Steel City. This reminded me of you so much. This game, you were the first person that popped into my mind. My guy Steel City says, I can't wait to be one and done again this year. How much longer can Tomlin get away with this? Yeah. I get it now. When you first burst onto the scene and you were saying that like 2-3 years ago, I wasn't trying to hear it because I was stuck in, purgatory. Like I would kill to be 9-8 and making the playoffs every year because I wasn't making the playoffs. But now that I see where you're like, there's nothing worse than being stuck in neutral, banging your head up against the same proverbial wall over and over again. And that's where y'all at. Literally, every year it's the same shit. It's no different than being a Dallas Cowboy fan stuck with Dak Prescott, knowing that you ain't winning shit with him, or being a Dolphins fan, knowing that you can't win with Tua, but you just signed him to a long-term deal. That has got to be the worst existence. I'd rather just suck and have a chance to go get a new guy and see if he can be the answer than to keep banging my head up against a brick wall, knowing I got a dude that ain't going to get the shit done. And with Tomlin, he's not the player, he's the coach. And the problem is, because he's the coach, you're never going to suck bad enough to get the player that could actually help turn the franchise around. That's the problem. So I guess it always comes back to Mike Tomlin at the end of the day. I don't know how much longer he can get away with it, but you keep winning at the clip that he's winning at, it's hard to get rid of him. It's hard to get rid of him. Steel City says, if we let Fields go and take Jalen Milroe round 1, I'm going to be pissed. Jalen Milroe stinks. So the only thing I can say about that is I think people kind of feel like they know who Justin Fields is. Milroe is a worse version of Justin Fields, but you don't know what he's going to be. I don't think most pundits thought that Jalen Hurts would be what he's turned into in the NFL. I don't think that's what people thought he would be. If they did think he would be, what he's turned out to be, maybe he would have been a first-round pick. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Lamar Jackson didn't turn out to be what people thought. He wouldn't have been the 32nd pick in the draft, right? So, there's a chance that Milroe could be better than we give him credit for. I don't see it. I've been wrong before. So I think the discussion there is, hey, we already know what Fields is. We don't know what Milroe is in the league, so let's see. I'd equate that too, though, and this is where I agree with you, Steel City. It'd be like swapping out Derek Carr for Kirk Cousins. Like, what did you really just do, right? What did you really just do? If you swap out Justin Fields for Jalen Milroe, what did you really just do, right? That's the question I got. That's kind of where I am with that. Steel City says, it'll be like 2022 when we settle for picking a very mid quarterback in the middle of the first round. Yeah, Kenny Pickett. I mean, that's what happens when you win 9 games every damn year. That's what happens. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. Like, that's the Tomlin effect. That's what I've essentially said. Unless you're willing to trade up. And again, you're never going to be in a position that is sexy for a team that's looking to trade out of the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pick. Who wants to go back to 19? Who wants to do that shit? Right? That's not sexy. If I'm trading out of number 3, I ain't trying to move all the way back to 19. I'm trying to move back to like 7 or 9. And that's going to be the problem with the Steelers. Every year you're going to be hovering around 20 because you're going to win 9 games. Red Wing 01 writes, congrats on the win, Cincy. Now your fate rests in the hands of Carson Wentz and probably Aaron Rodgers. Truly, the NFL never ceases to entertain. I wish I felt bad for Cincinnati, but I don't. They had their chances, and here we are. Red Wing 01 writes, Joe Burrow's final stats. 460 of 652 for a 70.6% completion percentage. That's crazy. 4,900 yards, almost 5,000 yards. That's crazy. 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's crazy. That's a damn near 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is insane. 108.5 rating plus 201 yards and 2 total touchdowns rushing. He may not get MVP with that record, but he should be in the Offensive Player of the Year combo. And he will be. Those are MVP numbers you just rattled off. But again, as I've said, MVP is not a individual award as they make it out to be. It is a combination of individual and team award. And so he's got the individual component. He does not have the team component. So pretty disappointing, to say the least. Comasel Brown says, are we trying to win tomorrow to move up in seeding, or are we more concerned with staying healthy? Glad we are dancing. Well, we can't move up, but we can stay where we are, which is the 6th seed, and that's where we want to be. That's where we want to be. DeMarcus Law says, what do you think of the Commanders season potentially starting and ending with the Bucks? I'd like to see us get the Bucks again and right the wrong from week 1. I mean, I wouldn't mind that, but I'm not rooting for that in particular. Like, I don't mind playing them or the Rams. There's pros and cons to playing both teams. I don't want our season starting and ending with Tampa, because that would mean we lost to Tampa, right? I would love our season to go through whomever we play in Wild Card Weekend and extend to the divisional round. And I wouldn't mind playing Tampa, right? There's no Chris Godwin, so they're not as strapped at receiver as they were the first time we saw him. But I'll tell you, the young fella out of UW is stepping up. McMillan, he's becoming a problem. They got Cade Otton at tight end. Bucky Irvin has turned into a real problem at running back. And Baker's slippery. So, they're going to be a tough team to deal with. They're not great from a pass rushing standpoint. And being that we've seen them once, they can't, and we're a totally different team than what what they saw the first time. So I like our chances against them, but ultimately, when it's all said and done, I'm not really pressed on who we play. I'm more concerned with winning this game, staying at 6, and then just letting the chips fall where they may, right? That's the goal. Jay Black says, live stream idea going through upcoming free agents on Sport Rack you would like the team to go after. Yeah, we'll get into all of that stuff in the offseason, though. Get into all that stuff. E says, like most coaches, the Steelers with Mike Tomlin were only real contenders with future Hall of Famer at quarterback. Yeah, I mean, he inherited a pretty good situation when he took over, right? Cowher retired. And when Cowher retired, you had a young Ben Roethlisberger and a roster that was aging but was still in its peak, right? So he took over that roster and added some pieces, and he was able to squeeze what was left out of that core group, the Casey Hamptons and the Brett Kiesel and Aaron Smith and Harrison and Joey Porter and Deshae Townsend, and he added guys like Ike Taylor, or maybe Ike might have already been there, but obviously Antonio Brown down the road. But what's my man from Ohio State? It's Antonio Holmes, and he was able to add they were able to add the necessary pieces to really be effective. They should have won 2 Super Bowls, right? But once all of those guys got older and they weren't able to, and this is the curse of Mike Tomlin. They're too good for their own good. And yeah, you're not wrong about most coaches that win in this league win with big time quarterbacks. That's the most important position in the league. And that's why what Joe Gibbs was able to do, to me, is so impressive, and why he's one of the best coaches to ever do it. Because you're not going to find many coaches that were able to do it with multiple quarterbacks. Most, Hall of Fame coaches, most coaches that have won multiple Super Bowls, they did it with the same guy. But I digress. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louis T. We've hit our threshold, and we'll see if that does it for the Cincinnati Bengals. They did what they needed to do. They won 19-17, held on, got the stop. Big drop at the end of this game by Pat Freiermuth, who was absolutely fantastic. He was the best receiver they had all night. But when they needed him the most, he didn't come up with the catch to extend the game. It would have been really interesting had he caught that, because he was on a dead sprint. He was going to run away from Pratt. He would have gotten tackled by the safety, who was also converging, but it would have happened maybe 7-8 more yards down the field. They would have been close to midfield. Russ was already on a dead sprint to go spike that thing. They probably would have spiked it with about a good, maybe, my guess would have been 9 seconds left, which would have allowed you to maybe get off one more play, try to get to the sidelines. And who knows, with the way that Tris Boswell kicks the football, who knows? You just get him close enough for like a 59-yarder, and they might have had a shot. But we'll never know, because Pat Freiermuth didn't catch the football. So, and then what the hell was Russ thinking by lowering his shoulder for a 4-yard gain instead of throwing it out of bounds? That ate up about 12 to 15 seconds off the clock. Then took a sack on the next play, so you had to use your timeout anyway. Damn. Chitlin circuit. Anyway. Ravens dominate the Cleveland Browns 35-10. They lock up the 3rd seed in the AFC. They are the team with the most to lose. Like, they have the most pressure on them, the Ravens do, more than any other team in the entire playoffs. Because Josh Allen has played in the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson has not. Or I take that back. He played in it last year. Excuse me. He won one game last year. And wait, let me make sure. Yeah. They were the number 1 seed last year. They won against the Texans, and then he lost to the Chiefs. So, to me, them and Buffalo have the most pressure on them to win. We'll see how they handle it, how both of those teams handle it. But Ravens take care of business, dominate the Browns. A lot of questions for Cleveland leaving this game. My goodness. Like somebody brought up earlier, Myles Garrett looked like he wants out. He looked like he was like, man, I'm sick of this shit. Mind you, the Browns were in the playoffs last year. It's not like he's been there just wasting away. They were in the playoffs last year, but I don't know how much more of these seasons he got in him. I don't know how many more of these seasons he got in him. He needed a half a sack today to get to 10. No, he didn't. He's at 14 or something. It's Micah Parsons who needs a half a sack to get to 10 to join the likes of Derek Thomas, Reggie White, and Dwight Freeney as the only edge rushers to start your career with 4 straight 10 sack seasons in a row. I hope he doesn't get it. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louis T, here on Saturday Night Football Overtime. Ravens destroyed the Browns 35-10, clinched the AFC North division. They are locked into the 3 seed where they will take on, more likely than not, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If the Chargers lose to the Raiders, then they'll be taking on the Chargers, but Chargers aren't going to lose. They're going to take care of business. They're going to move into that 5 slot. The Steelers are going to drop 6, and they will be playing their old friend in the playoffs. Speaking of Steelers, they don't get it done in the nightcap. They lose 19-17 at home to the Cincinnati Bengals, who keep their playoff hopes alive by winning and improving to 9-8. Now they need help. They need Miami to lose to the Jets, and they need the Carson Wentz-led Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Denver Broncos. If those 2 things happen, then Cincinnati will be your 7th seed, and they will travel to Buffalo in Wild Card Weekend, which will make for great theater. The Steelers limp into the postseason, losers of 4 straight. At one time, they were 10-3. They're now 10-7, having not scored more than 17 points in any of the contests over the last month. They're reeling, they're struggling, and they're searching for answers at the wrong time of the season. But such is life. So you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I will see you tomorrow. Tons of football, tons of things to talk about tomorrow. We'll get clarity on everything. And pretty much by the time we get to Sunday night football, we will have our playoff picture all but set. So until then, I'm your man Louis T, signing off. You guys take care. Give you a quick shout out. Let me get a quick shout out to BetUS on the way out of the door. BetUS has been phenomenal this season, and I can't thank them enough for sponsoring this stream. Head over to betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless. Good night.